Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So in this tutorial we are going to go ahead and continue with our CI/CD part. So in the last tutorial we were able to build our web application using FastAPI. We were able to build the FastAPI API basically. We're able to deploy it to Heroku. We're able to write CI/CD for it on using GitHub Actions, and we're able to use CI/CD to push the code to GitHub, right? So in this tutorial we're going to go ahead and actually learn to deploy our Docker container into Dockerhub. So in the last tutorial we created a Docker container and we are able to run our Docker container using Docker Compose. So in this tutorial I'm going to show how to deploy your Docker container to Dockerhub, so that if you have a production server like DigitalOcean server or anything, you can be able to pull your Dockerhub container over there and simply be able to use it. So this is what we're going to do in this tutorial, and it's going to be very simple. So let's get started with it. So if you're new to the channel, please kindly consider subscribing, liking this video, and sharing this content with anyone who you think might find this helpful. If you're new to the series, you can go back and watch the previous videos, and it's just about building the simple API using CRUD API using MongoDB, FastAPI, Git, Docker Actions, and all that back-end stuff. Okay, so if you're interested in back-end stuff, please kindly consider subscribing to the channel and check the video out from the beginning of the series. So let's get started to it. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to my GitHub my VS Code right here. So once we have this, the first we need to do is actually push our Docker container to Dockerhub. So you first need to go into your browser and simply create a Dockerhub. Let me just go here. You need to go ahead and create a Dockerhub account. And so this just like GitHub is a Docker version of GitHub, so you can be able to push your code to GitHub. Okay, so it just allows you to push a lot of your Docker containers to Dockerhub, just like you push your code to GitHub repository. So go ahead and create a Dockerhub account, and once you have done creating the account, we can begin to you can begin to go ahead and create a repository, and this is a repository we're going to push in our Docker container. So I'm going to go ahead and create a repository here. So I'm going to go ahead and give the repository a name. I'm just going to call it I'm going to call it test API, as we had before. So just call it test API tutorial. Just like that. So once I have this, I'm going to create a public one. Okay, so I'm going to create a public one. If you want to create a private one, then you can only have one private repository for Dockerhub, not like GitHub where you can have many private repositories. So Dockerhub, if you want a more private repository, then you have to pay for that service. Okay, so I'm just going to use a public repository, and once you have repository created, you can simply push our container in here. You can see the command to push the container in here. Okay, so let's go back in here into our VS Code, and I'm simply going to write docker image ls. So docker image ls is just going to list all the Docker images that we have currently running on our machine. So let's just wait for that output. Okay, so I need to use sudo, I think sudo docker. I got the spelling of docker wrong. So docker image ls. Okay, this is going to list all the Docker images. So I'm going to pass in my password and simply press enter. So once I have that pressed out, that should return to me all the list of Docker images that we have on our machine. Yeah, so once you can see that we have an image right here which we created last time from the last tutorial. So we called it test API. So you can see we have it right here. So what I simply want to go ahead and do is simply push this to Dockerhub. So I can simply say sudo. I have to use sudo, okay, on my machine. You might don't have to use sudo in your case. I have to say sudo. I can just say the command is just sudo. Let me just say sudo. The command is just sudo, and then you can say push, and then you can just push something, and then the name of what you want to push there. Okay, so let's first look at the help options that we have. So you can just say help to see the instructions on how to do this. So what you need to do is just say docker push, and then an optional image, and then you have an image, the name of the image, and then an optional tag. Okay, so that's what you have to do to push our repository to our Docker container to Dockerhub. So I'm going to say sudo docker. I'm going to say docker, and then push, and then I have to say simply the name of that image. Okay, so sudo docker push, and then the name of the image is just test API, just like that, and try to push this. And then the default tag is by default latest, so you don't have to specify it. You can see it's using the default type latest, but this is not going to work because the first thing is that we never logged into our account. Okay, so it's just going to say this, and it's going to simply return to us access denied. So you can see denied request, right, because we never logged into our Docker account. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to be logged into our Docker account. So let's go ahead and actually try to log into our Docker account. So I'm going to say sudo docker docker login, just like that. And if you log in here, you need to go ahead and use your username and your password that you use for your Docker account, okay, for you to be able to log in. So you can see I already logged into this computer already, so it was successfully logged in, okay. But in their case, I can just simply log out again. I can just simply log out Docker, and then Docker, and just say log out again, and then this will to go ahead and log me out. So now I can go ahead and log in again and show you the whole process again. So Docker login, and my username is just Prince this, and then simply my password, and then type in my password here, and then simply press enter, and now this is going to go ahead and log me in, okay. So you can see now I'm logged into my my Docker account, okay. So now the previous command failed, not because we actually logged in, but if you are not also logged in, that will also fail. But let me tell you why it failed. That's why it failed, that we had a bad naming convention. So if you go back to the repository, you can see this Docker push, and then this should be the Docker container should type our name, and then / this repository's name, which is API, test API, and then an optional tag, okay. So right now we need to go ahead, but if you look at our Docker, so just say sudo docker image ls, you can see that our Docker image is called test API. You can see it right here, test API. If I scroll, you can see it is called test API. So what we need to do is actually change the name to follow this convention, because this is the convention that we need to use to push to Dockerhub. So we need to first the name of our account, which is our Docker username, and then / the name of the repository, and then you can give it an optional tag, okay. So let's go ahead and do that, and by default the tag is latest, okay. So you can see all the tag here is latest by default. So I'm just going to go ahead and clear this, clear the terminal. And once I have the terminal cleared, I'm simply going to go ahead and rename our Docker file. So let's see how we can rename our Docker file. So I'm just say to do this actually very simple. We can just simply say sudo. I'm going to use sudo docker docker, and then I can say -- help. Let's see which option we have to rename our tag. So we have an option here called create a tag target name. That refers to a source image. So we can rename our GitHub our container, our Docker container, using the tag option. So let me just clear that. I can just simply docker sudo docker image tag, and then I can say -- help, just like that, and press enter. It's going to give me the option that I need. So to create this, I need to say docker image, and then I give the source image that I want, and then the target name, the target image that I want. So I'm just going to rename my image using this command here. So I'm going to say sudo docker, and I'm simply going to say docker image, and then tag. Once you have the tag, you can go ahead and specify the name of the image that you want to rename, and the name of the image is the one which you called test, right? So if you look at the images, it's called test. So I'm going to say test API. So test API, test API. So let me just say API here. So test API, and then we want to rename it to another name. So I want to start with the name of our GitHub repository. Our Dockerhub username, which is this one right here. This one right here. So you can see the name is give us even the naming convention. So this, and then we can go ahead. You can even copy this right here and simply use it if that's what you want to do. So I can just go ahead and say test API. Test API, just like that. So once I have this, let me make sure that I get the spelling right. So once I have this, I can simply go ahead and then you can give it an optional tag if you want by give it a tag here, but by default the tag is just latest, so it's not compulsory. So I'm just going to press enter, and that should go ahead and rename our Docker conf. So you can do sudo docker image ls, just like that, and let's see if we have that. Yeah, so you can see we have it right here, Prince Crampa, and then / test API. So one, and the tag is just latest by default. So great. So once we have this done, we can go ahead and actually push it now to Dockerhub. So I'm just clear this, and I'm going to go ahead and try to push this to Dockerhub. And to do this, I'm going to say sudo docker push, and then I'm going to go ahead and specify that name. So Prince Crampa, and then / test API, just like that, and simply go ahead and press enter. So this will go ahead and push the code to push our Docker container to Dockerhub, and then we can go ahead and actually use it. So you can see it's being pushed to Dockerhub. So just give it some time to complete pushing to Dockerhub. Yeah, so you can see the last one is just being completed. So let's give it a few minutes. It should just be done. Sometimes it can take time because there's a large file to push. So once it's done, then we'll have that completely Docker container being pushed to Dockerhub, and then from there we can begin to use it. So it's taking some more time. So yeah, I think it should be complete just in a second. So let's just wait for that. Yeah, so you can see now everything has been pushed to Dockerhub. So let's just wait for this to complete. So if I go back to the browser, it should now be pushed here once that is done. So let's give it some more time and let's check if that's done. So go back here. Yeah, it's completing its processes, so let's give it some more time. Yeah, so that's completed and it has been pushed to Dockerhub. So that's about I think it's about the size is MB, so that's about 3 point something GB of data. So that's a lot of data, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is MB, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so once that's pushed to Dockerhub, you can just go ahead and try to refresh this, and let's see if there are any changes on this website. This is a Dockerhub repository that we pushed to, so let's just refresh it to see if there are any changes. It's taking some bit to load. Maybe my internet is a bit slow today. Yeah, and you can see it has been pushed here, and this is the container right here, and yeah, so it's running on a Linux OS. So that's all we need to get that pushed. So great, so it's all pushed and it's all running here, and the ready one, you can just click the latest one, which is just the latest tag, and you can find that information for what we pushed here and all of that here. So great, so once we have that this running in here, we can simply go ahead and now try to use GitHub actions. So we can use GitHub actions to automate all this process, because every time we make changes, we have to now go ahead and create a new Docker container and then push all that again. So that can take a bit of time. So we're going to use the CI/CD pipeline to automate all this process. Okay, so let's just go into our CI/CD pipeline. So I'm just going into the CI/CD pipeline that we were working with last time. So if you go in there, I just want to change a couple of things. I'm just going to build -deploy.yaml file, which we worked on last time when we pushed to Heroku. So now I want to create another job right here. So I want to create another job, and this job is going to handle pushing our code to Dockerhub. In case we build a new container, it automatically push it to Dockerhub. Okay, so we don't have to do this ourselves every time. Okay, so I'm going to create a new job right here. So I'm just going to make sure that I get the notation right. So I'm just call this one deploy. Let's just say Docker deploy. So Docker deploy, just like that. So in Docker deploy, I'm just going to give this one I'm going to say build. So what you have to say first of all, I actually have the documentation pulled up here, so let me just bring you that documentation, which is just an example of how to use CI/CD to push to Dockerhub. So the first thing we need to do, actually need to add our username to Dockerhub, our secrets on GitHub, and also we need to add our access token to our GitHub actions. Okay, yeah, so that's basically what we need to do. So you can just search from here. Let's just fix all of this, and then when we reach the part where we need the username and the password and the access token, we'll deal with that just in a second. So the first thing we need to do, actually says we need to go ahead and say run and test, and then you can say this job, and this job simply you can just give this job name. So we can just say run soon, and you can say the operating system which it runs on. So we want to say Ubuntu latest. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste this in here, and then we can say the environment. Okay, we'll come back to also go ahead and specify the environment here, because we're going to need the secrets from the given environment. So in the last tutorial, we said the environment that we use is called Heroku production, and this is the environment that is on our GitHub repository. So if you go back to our GitHub repository, you can find that environment name, and then use the name of the environment that you use. Okay, so if let me just go back here and try to open my GitHub page. Yeah, so once my GitHub page is open, I can just go into my settings, and I can go into environments, and you can see that we have an environment called Heroku production. So this is the environment that you're working with, and this way we're going to keep all our secrets for this project. So we call it a Heroku production. So that's the name that I use right here. Okay, Heroku production. So once we have our environment specified, we're going to go ahead and specify the Docker, our Docker username and our Docker access token in that environment. Okay, but for now we need to go ahead and continue with the documentation, and let's see what else we need to set up. So I'm just going to go here. We need to go ahead and have all this set up. Okay, but in this case you're going to be using Python and not Golang. Okay, so it's going to be a bit different for what you're trying to do. Okay, So I just follow this one, but the Python version, and I specify, and it's just the same thing, but we're going to follow the Python version, and I have the code written already on my GitHub repository here. So I'm just going to bring that and then follow that along. So this is what we need to do: specify the environment. So now let's go ahead and specify the actions that we need to take. So the first step we need to take is actually try to log in. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this right here, and you can also find this on the offshore documentation. If you guys want this link, I can leave the link in the description below. Let me know in the comment section below. Okay, so we need to first log into our repository. So I'm going to go in here and then simply paste the code that I just copied. So it's actually steps, and I forgot to copy probably S, so I'm going to put steps. So we're going to first go ahead and try to log into our Dockerhub, and you're going to use the GitHub actions. Okay, so we're going to use actions, and we're going to specify our username, which is going to be from our secrets, and then our access token. So we need to go ahead and provide these two things. Okay, so I'm just going to go, even if you look at the offshore documentation, it asks you to provide the two things, right? The Docker username and then your access token. So I'm going to simply going to copy this, and I'm going to go into my GitHub environment, and I'm simply going to go ahead and say add a new environment, add a new secret, and name of the secret is going to be just go ahead and paste this right here. So paste this and do Docker username, and the username is just simply Prince and then Crumble, just like this. So that's my username. So I'm just going to go ahead and simply press enter. So now I have added this. I also need to go ahead and actually get my access token. So I'm going to go into settings, I believe, and if you go into settings, let me just go back into my main page here. So let me just go in here and then go to account settings. So instead of account settings, that's where you can get access token from. So if you just scroll down and go to I think it's this part of API security. Yes, go to security, and then inside security again, that's where you can generate an access token. So I'm going to go ahead and generate a new access token. I'm going to call it test API tutorial, just like that. Test API tutorial. So I'm just going to go ahead and use an underscore here. So underscore an underscore here. So once I have this, I'm going to go ahead and generate the access token. So it's going to generate the access token. I'm simply going to go ahead and copy this, okay, and then I'm just going to copy and close. So once that's closed, you can see I have a new access token right here. So I'm simply going to go in here and simply go ahead and click on add new secret, and the value is just going to be the access token that we copied, and then the we need to provide the key, which is just this one right here. I'm going to simply copy this and simply use it right here and simply paste it here. So our access Dockerhub access token, and this is the access token that we got. So I'm just going to go ahead and create this secret. Yeah, so let's go back in here, and so we have the username and the token already provided. So what else do we need? So let me just go back to this documentation right here. You can also read along with this documentation. But this is I actually got the Go version instead of the Python version. So I have the Python version written right here. So you need to actually provide a Docker setup, a Docker build X, and you can also find this on the documentation. You can find it here. So Docker build X. I think it's just I got. I think this link is for the for the Go documentation, but there's also the Python version, and you can just find that and get the Python version. But I have the code already written here, so no worry about that. So I can just simply go ahead and copy let me just copy all of this Docker just the build X action. So I'm just going to copy it and simply paste it right here. So paste it right here, there. Yeah, so that's all we needed, and let me just make sure that that indentation is all properly fixed. So we have set up Docker build X, and it goes ahead and set up Docker build X using the GitHub actions, and then it also sets up the cache Docker layers, and then we are using this action right here and all of that information. So great. So now we have done that. We now need to go ahead and build and push our Docker container, and this is what we need. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this part of the code. So I'm just going to copy this part and then go ahead and simply paste it in here. So all this is on the official documentation of how to deploy Docker containers to using GitHub CI/CD. This is the Go version, the documentation that I got, but there's also the Python version. And if I don't know why I chose the Go version, but there's also the Python version that I can link in the description below, so you guys can get access to that one as well. Okay, so that's all we need. So so after that building and pushing, now we need to go ahead. We can also specify if you want to digest the image digest, and this is something that is specified on the documentation. So I'm just going to copy that and simply paste it here as well. So make sure that I fix that indentation. Yeah, so great, that's all basically what we need to push our Docker container to Dockerhub. And yeah, that's all we need, and we can go ahead and simply run our code, and that should now push it to Dockerhub using the CI/CD pipeline. So make sure to have your Docker username specified, and also you have generated an access token that you copied and used. Okay, so once I have this, I can just go back in my terminal, and instead of my terminal, I can just simply do git add. So I'm just going to say git add everything. Okay, you see that's hyphen all if you want, or you can just say dot. So git push all, and then I say git commit. I can just commit, and then you can specify a message. Just say that Dockerhub CI CD. Okay, just something simple. And then once I have that, I'm just gonna push this to Docker. Push it to GitHub, and then the CI CD should kick in. So I'm just gonna say git push or git push origin master branch. Okay, so I'm just going to pass in my password here, and then just press enter. And once this is pushed up, we can go to our GitHub repository, and then we can simply go ahead and go to actions and see what actions we have here. Is the actions actually running? So we can just go in here and then check those actions and make sure the actions are running and all that information. So yeah, actually I made a mistake. I have to use this repository, and in here I'm just going to go ahead and click on the actions, and let's see if the actions are running. So let's click on actions, and let's see the actions are running. So let's check if it's actually pushed, and yeah, it has been pushed. So now you can see this part is running now in parallel, so it's all running parallel. So I think maybe I skipped something. I don't know if I skipped something or I provided everything that we needed. I think we provided everything we needed. So now you can see that this is running on its own, and these are actually this Heroku depends on the build, but you can see that the Docker deploy action is running on its own. So let me go back and explain to you something about this. So you can see when you're talking about the Heroku push to Heroku, you see that it needs the build action. It means that the build action should be completed before pushing it to Heroku, right? So but Dockerhub, it doesn't depend on any of this. So this is how you can specify dependency or independency. So GitHub actions run in parallel, right? It means they can run, two actions can run at the same time in parallel. But now we are saying that this one, this action depends on this one finishing. So if this one finishes, that's when this one runs. So if you go back to the repository, you can see that's the case here. So this one finishes and this one begins, right? But the Dockerhub is the pushing to Dockerhub. It doesn't depend on any of it doesn't depend on the build. But if you want to depend on the build, you can just go ahead and specify say needs, and then you can specify needs, and then you can say you can specify what it depends on. You can say depends on Heroku something, right? So, yeah. But in this case, you're not going to be doing that, so we're going to running this in parallel. So this is going to be running in parallel with these two other ones, but this one is going to run in sequence. This is going to be completed, and then this is going to be completed. But the Dockerhub action pushing to Dockerhub doesn't depend on any of them. That's why you can see it's completed and has no link to the others. Yeah, so basically you can see now our containers have been pushed to Dockerhub, and you can go ahead and try to go back to your page and then try to verify this information, and you should get back. You can see that it has been deployed to Dockerhub as well. So if you look here, you can see it has been deployed or it has already been pushed already, so it already exists. So due to the caching, you can see that it has been pushed, but trust me, it has already been pushed to Dockerhub, and you can see that being indicated here. You can also click on this, and then you can push and build, and you can see all that information right here. So that's basically it, and that's how you can push and deploy to Dockerhub using CI/CD pipeline. So you can see install everything and then edit everything as we specified, as we told it to do. Okay, so that's basically it for this tutorial. If you guys have any questions, you can let me know in the comment section below. I'll do my best to get back to you. The code for all of this is going to be available on my GitHub repository, or you can just simply pause the video and simply type this out. Yeah, so if you have any questions, you can just let me know about it. And again, if you are new to the channel, please kindly consider subscribing, liking this video, and sharing this content with anyone who you think might find this helpful. So guys, that's the end of our series on building a backend application using FastAPI, MongoDB, writing the CI/CD pipeline, and doing all those stuff. Okay, so this is the end of this tutorial. If you guys have any questions, any recommendation for future videos, let me know in the comment section below. And if you're new to the channel, please kindly consider subscribing again. And thanks for watching. See you in the next one. If you have any suggestions for future videos, let me know in the comment section below. I'll do my best to get back to you. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Keep safe.